Hey, I'll sleep when I'm dead. Cells? They are.
Perfect. Welcome to another episode of Press B to Cancel, a retro gaming podcast. Well, most of the time. I am your host this week, Jake, and we got a special episode. We're going to be talking about a game that has been out for a while, but it recently got a new DLC. We're talking about Dead Cells, which is a fantastic indie title for Motion Twin. But not alone. No, I'm joined by two good friends of mine. Wolf, how you doing this week?
I am moderately addicted.
Moderately?
How I'm doing.
We'll get to that.
To a game, I guess I should clarify before anybody is like, "What's happening?" No, it's the usual. It's video games.
Yeah. This week we're going to discuss werewolves' cocaine habit in depth and break it down for everybody in the community.
I brought the rubber hose. Dude.
Also joined by, Jared. How you doing this week?
I'm holding up. We're doing all right. We're hanging out.
Right.
I'm excited to do this episode. This is going to be fun.
Yeah, me too. So, I mean, just to quickly introduce it to the people who've been living on a rock for like 6 years, Dead Cells is probably, Dead Cells is one of my examples of early access done right. It was created by a company known as Motion Twin. It was actually their second game to be released, and they released it in early access in, I think it was May of 2017, and then they later released it fully in June of 2018. But unlike a lot of games, they just been constantly updating it to the point actually where when they wanted to work on a new game, members of their team who still wanted to improve on Dead Cells and add to it broke away. They formed their own company called Evil Empire, and they work with Motion Twin to keep the development of Dead Cells going. So it's no longer with Motion Twin, although a lot of the original staff are at this new company working on it. So it's in for the long haul. It's had, I want to say, 5 DLCs at this point. The one that came out recently was Castlevania. So it's Dead Cells Return to Castlevania or something along those lines, which is fascinating to me because I love Castlevania. I love how Konami had this IP, but Konami, as many people know, doesn't really make video games anymore. They've kind of quit. They make pachinko and not much else, although they are slowly kind of getting back into it by farming out their IP to other companies.
Pachinko is hot fire. You slow your roll, bud.
Well, all right, maybe I'll get a pachinko machine for my room. Maybe I'll do that, but not today. No, so they have been farming out their IP. Pachinko. Well, it's popular somewhere.
I mean, it does though.
Well, yeah. I mean, the power of gambling. Speaking of addiction, so Castlevania is one of those franchises where everybody's kind of like Symphony of the Night was fantastic. All the Game Boy Advance ones were great. The what's the guy who made Castlevania? The newer ones. What was his name?
Koji Igarashi.
Igarashi, right. So he actually, because Konami wasn't interested in making more games, he broke away and made a spin-off, what's it called? Bloodstained, which is fantastic, and there's also 2 remakes done by Inti Creates. Fantastic games in that Castlevania style.
Cool. Well, did he do Curse of the Moon too? Yeah. I'm sorry, Curse of the Moon. Yeah. Is it Bloodstained Curse of the Moon? Because I know they did the Symphony. It did the Symphony of the Night version, which was Bloodstained. And then there was Curse of the Moon, and then there was the other one. I didn't know if Bloodstained was like the overall title of the game.
All the same universe, but it was kind of like a prequel to Bloodstained, the 3D one. So, but like they're great games. It's a great franchise and a great style of games, and there's been a real lack of them. So when I saw the announcement of Dead Cells, which definitely wears the Castlevania influence on its sleeve, even though it is a roguelike, was actually partnering with Konami to get their IP to do a Castlevania DLC. I couldn't have been more excited. Like, this is probably the highlight. I think it was Summer Games Fest chart when this came out, and I could not wait. So I was excited for this. So let me start real quick, because you guys have a lot more experience in this game than I do, probably as usual. I bought it in early access in 2017, played the hell of it, and then I kind of stopped, telling myself I would wait for the full release. And when it fully released, kind of didn't touch it for a while. Later grabbed on the Switch, put a few hours into it, but again, fell off it. I haven't really gotten back into it until this DLC. So I'm about 10 hours in, all said and done on Steam. So I want to talk to you guys. I'm gonna start with you, Chard, because I know what Wolf's number is. Chard, how much have you played of Dead Cells, and what's it been like with you? Have you played it before? Is this the first time with Castlevania? What's your experience with it so far? Chard frozen. He's giving me that death stare.
Oh no!
He dropped.
That's horrible. You're like, I'm gonna ask Chard. He's gone.
He's like, oh shit! He started me
first.
I'm gone.
Talk about this tonight. What the hell? You guys didn't tell me this was Dead Cells.
Oh my gosh! Hold on. I'm gonna hold the side window up. Fantastic.
Oops. I'm trying to figure out
while we're waiting.
Got this game.
Well, I guess to start with, we'll start with you, Wolf. You've played what? An hour, maybe 2 of this game? What? Do you know how many hours you put into this game?
Give or take 120.
121 hours.
Well,
I was joking with Chard
before we went live. Makes it simple to do.
So I was joking with Chard before we started. He's got 20 hours in the game played, and then I'm like, take a guess at Wolf's got, and he's like over 100. Like he has 22 hours recently. Your recent hours is more than Chard, and then, 121 hours total. Yeah, you've played a ton of this, a ton.
Yes, I wish this were easier to find the information. I thought it used to tell you like when you bought the game, but I'm not seeing it on here. I just see the release date. But I know you know what? I can actually get a better number for you real quick. Okay, so I got it in 2019, probably mid-year, because I know I got it around the same time I got A Robot Named Fight, because that was like something that was really. There's a subreddit I go to for Metroidvanias, right? And really popular idea on the subreddit at the time was, roguelite Metroidvanias. And so this got lumped in there with that. And I feel like that doesn't accurately describe what Dead Cells is. Like, if you took a cursory glance at it, it kind of fits, but not really. It's very much its own thing. It's not really a Metroidvania. It's an action platformer roguelite that you get to access some new areas when you complete certain major tasks in the game, and then those new areas are permanently accessible in later runs. It's not like a Metroidvania where you have to go find the thing that lets you traverse all these new types of things, right? It's just you get the unlockable and you're done with that. Like, that's now something you can do. So I got this game back around, like I said, mid 2019 probably is my assumption. And I kind of liked it, but it didn't really click with me. The malaise system that was in the game at the time, that has since, as far as I know, been removed, or at least heavily reworked, to where I haven't seen it yet, playing on with just up to 2 stem cells. It might be back in like 4 or 5. The malaise
system? Yeah.
So you had there was a yellow bar that used to fill up next to your health bar. And I think it would cause you to do less damage, and you'd do less healing when you collected items and stuff like that. So it was a lot more, I hate using this term, but it was a lot more of a Souls-like than a Metroidvania at the time.
Okay. All right.
I know everything is like, it's a Souls-like. It's a Souls-like. I don't do that. So when I say it's a Souls-like, it kind of is. So
all the tropes.
Yeah, in Dark Souls, there's some sort of system where you're weaker, like it's the humanity system or something, or I'm not played enough Dark Souls to remember, but
yeah, you kind of turn to a zombie, and then you go to a campfire and you get your face back or something. It was very odd. I ran around ugly half the time of that game.
I think the malaise system was something similar-ish to that, and that kind of spun me off of it. It made the game more complex than I think it needed to be. And there might be people who loved it. It might still be in there at 5 stem cells, which means I might never get the 5th stem cell. or see what's behind that 5 stem cell door at the end of the game, But
well, maybe explain. Okay, sorry, keep going. But I want you to explain the stem cell system, because I actually have not I have not played the game enough to actually do one complete loop through the game. So I don't know the stem cell stuff at all.
Okay, so the game is called Dead Cells. It's sort of a reference to two types of things in the game. One, you start off in prisons, so you're running through the prison cells. So that's kind of the face value aspect. And then there's the more subtle aspect, which becomes a lot less subtle the more you play, in that you're collecting the cells of the dead, or your enemies as you proceed through the game. And when the first time you complete a difficulty in the game and beat that boss, you get a stem cell that lets you crank up the difficulty by 1 notch. And then when you beat that difficulty, you get another stem cell, and so on until you've got up to 5. I've only got 3. I've only played tier 2 difficulty. I've not tried the tier 3. Well, I've tried stem cell 2, which is tier 3. I've not tried stem cell 3 yet. I'm kind of scared. But I was working to unlock goodies in that, and that's kind of why I've not progressed further. Now, what the stem cells do is they make the game more difficult. They ramp up various aspects. Sometimes it's just enemy damage and health. Sometimes it's it affects the kinds of things that drop. It affects the kinds of things that you can unlock. So the cells that you collect, you spend to unlock weapons, gear, equipment for them to be permanently something that can drop in the game. And and outfits. This game's got hundreds of outfits. Well, dozens of outfits, I should say, because I think there's like
a lot, especially with the DLC. There's like a lot of outfits. Yeah,
and you can also spend those cells on upgrading your potential drops. So you can upgrade how often the drops will be. Instead of just base quality, they'll be plus quality, or plus quality, or S quality. And so that's kind of why I stopped progressing, because I didn't want to be more difficult without having the best of that I could unlock.
Right.
But the game it's interesting in that there's boss round A, boss round B, and then end boss. Each gameplay loop has that. So there are certain bosses that fall into boss round A. There are certain bosses that fall into boss round B. And then there are a couple of bosses that fall into the end boss of the route. And so you end up playing through 2 to 3 areas before each boss, and then 1 more area before the end boss after that.
Okay. So there's only 3 bosses in a run, really?
Per run, yes.
Oh shoot! Then that means I was almost done. Damn. Okay. All right.
So yeah, I started to piece together some ideas. I don't know how much, if you've played enough to wonder about who the main character is yet, but I started to wonder after a while. I was like, okay, the main character, we have no idea who he is, but they make a point of him, like being the one who can do something about this, right? Make the whole island kingdom is sort of undead or something, right? Like that's all you kind of get out of it, save for a handful of humans who live in the prisons where you start every run. It doesn't seem like there's much plot, but there kind of is. It's just a little buried. It's
okay.
It's not quite Elden Ring buried, but it is. It is kind of buried. You have to there's called lore rooms, right? So anytime you enter a special type of room, be it a shop, a treasure room, or these lore rooms that are highlighted in light blue on the map, time for your gameplay run stops. And I'll come back to that in a bit. But these lore rooms are where aspects of the kingdom's history and what led up to the circumstances that you're now playing through happened. Like it gives you that backstory there for the most part. Sometimes you'll find an NPC, or in certain cases, bosses that drop more lore on you. And I have a suspicion that there's a final chunk of lore for me to find yet behind the 5 stem cell door at the end of one certain boss.
Okay. So yeah, I remember the lore rooms, but it's usually like a dad joke kind of, right? There's one or two lines at most. But you're right. There are some, I guess, that have story to it. I guess I have not seen all of them or enough of them to kind of unpiece the story.
Sometimes your dude has like 10 boxes of dialogue. Sometimes he'll read, sometimes he'll read a few boxes of, what happened with these characters or what happened in this room that resulted in what we're doing now or stuff like that. So it gets deeper than it seems like it would. But they're also usually a little bit humorous to sort of lighten the tone because that's the game. It's got a sense of humor despite all this horribleness on this island, right?
Well, and your main character has got no head, right? You're literally a dead guy with no head. You just got a flaming orb where your face should be.
Yeah, I don't know if you looked through the outfits. There's one named Bobby's outfit.
That's the one I use. Yeah.
Okay, so your character, for all intents and purposes, is technically Bobby, but only because you're using Bobby's body. Bobby was the name of the person whose body your little, amorphous blob sort of possessed and brought to life.
Okay, so you're saying maybe the body you're running around in and fighting in is not necessarily the main character. The main character is the blob thing that kind of inhabits the body. Is that what you're saying?
Mm-hmm. And it's left a mystery for a long time who that blob is. The more you play, the more you sort of piece it together. And in one of the DLCs, you do finally get, and I'd sort of pieced it together before that. It was kind of becoming my theory. And one of the bosses actually has a ton of dialogue that he shares with you. And when you finally beat that boss, you find out who the main character is.
Okay. I have not gotten that far yet.
And I don't know if we want to spoil that or not. I don't know if it's super important or going to ruin anybody's gameplay, but the way it was revealed was rather entertaining.
Okay. I haven't gotten that far, and I'm kind of interested now. So maybe avoid spoilers in that part.
Okay.
So, Chard, Walt's just filling us in on the deep lore, which rivals Elden Ring, and how obscure it is. I didn't even know this game had lore.
Listen, my freaking computer just crashed in the middle of this episode. Do not antagonize me, please.
No, I'm serious. Like I mentioned Elden Ring while you were gone.
You hate me. Why do you guys hate me so much?
No, it was because I was talking about how the lore in this game is a little bit buried.
Yeah.
Not Elden Ring buried, where you have to read through item descriptions, but it is a lot of lore rooms where you have to stop and interact with multiple things that you may not notice you can interact with.
I'm just going to go out and say this right now, okay? The gentleman that created Elden Ring has been known as one of the top influential people. This is true. This is all true. Because of his ability to storytell. Thank you very much. Was in the interview. So before you start talking ununderstandable storytelling, you just look at 100's top most influential people, and you'll see Miyazaki on there. So let's please continue.
Not saying he's not influential. Just I don't see him influencing story. But anyway, that's a whole other episode.
I hate it here. God, I hate it here. I was lurking on the other end of the phone, so I made sure to not completely miss everything. But I missed a lot of stuff. So where did we leave off?
Well, we left off trying to ask you what your experience was with the game.
Oh,
yeah, that's where you.
So Wolf's played for about 5 minutes.
Listen, this game's no Elden Ring, okay, but it's pretty good. I always feel attacked as if I designed and created Elden Ring and I had anything to do with the story. No, so I played this game during, I think it's early releases. I watched Sarconius, shout out to Sarconius, a couple times play this game on one of his mini indie nights that he throws together. And I was like, this is pretty cool. And I believe my friend Lord Optic and I, who the channel knows, talked about playing it off and on here and there, and I don't think I ever got around to doing it. And then eventually, I think it had to have been at least a year or so ago, and I think I got this game, and it was right before it was out of early release, if I remember right. It was still in early access, and then like not too long after that they released it. This game is super fun, but I didn't understand how any of it worked. I didn't get like what I was like. I was dying all the time, and I didn't realize that you use the cells to level your stuff up to get stronger, so you can have the same weapons or have repetitive weapons. And I didn't know about the accessibility modes. I didn't know anything about that stuff. So I was like, man, I shelved it because I was like, this is hard. I'm not having fun. I just keep getting the same start over again, and I'm getting old with it. So I stopped playing it for a while. I forget what happened, but I think I took off Game Pass, and I ended up getting this game in some way, shape, or form through Steam. And then getting the Steam Deck in general pretty much changed everything. It changed all indie games for me. Like anything that I would find myself playing repetitively in front of my computer, it was just easier to do on Steam Deck. So I fired it up, and I'm like, Wolf, I'm addicted. I was very addicted for a long time. We were playing it for a lot, and then I kind of simmered down a little bit and stopped playing it. And then they announced the Castlevania DLC that was coming out in quarter 1. Are we still in quarter 1 or quarter 2, whatever? And I was like, oh, that's freaking cool. I'm gonna wait until this comes out to have a little bit more spark to it or whatever. It comes out, and I've been hooked. I've been playing it. I love the music renditions that they did. I love the characters. I love some of the hidden weapons and the stuff you can find. I love Alucard and Richter and all those guys running around doing their thing in the game too, and having like the lore. But I mean the lore from you get the nail from
Hollow
that game
Knight.
that I like.
Hollow Knight.
Hollow Knight.
Yeah.
You get the guacamole things. You get there's so much that they intertwined in this game on top of the DLC and on top of the other stuff. It's spectacular.
I think all those other indie games referenced are pulled in with the free DLC, right?
They are. Yeah.
I believe so. Yeah. Yeah.
I want to say
a
there's
lot of that
10...
stuff came from the earlier stuff.
Yeah.
I had the Dead Cells base game, right? And I started playing it, and then I bought the Castlevania DLC. And I could only do the DLC, the Castlevania stuff. So I'm sitting on my couch with my Steam Deck, and I'm like, I just buy it all. So I bought all the DLC in one sitting, like right after I bought Castlevania. And then I've been playing it off and on, but I keep going back since it's new. I keep going back and forth, and I've learned how to play it better. Like at first it was like, oh, these weapons are cool. It was a lot of surface area stuff, but then, you learn how to upgrade your stuff. You learn what to focus on. You go find all the craftable things that you can unlock with the different cells and stuff. And after we started getting somewhere and started actually like figuring some stuff out, the game became super fun to play. Some of these bosses are freaking impossible. The tower bosses where you got to fight like 3 different people at a time going up, and the thing's on fire while you're going up. So you have to deal with this level with the fire burning up, and then there's a dude shooting at you, and then there's a middle ground, and you have to fight one of them, and then you beat him, and then they disappear, and then fire burns, and another one shows up that like shoots bows and arrows and stuff at you, and you get past that, then you got to fight that one, and then there's like a third one. Then you have to fight all 3 at the same time. Is stupid. Oh my God. It's just so freaking hard. But I mean, the gameplay, you feel like a bad, I talk very often about like ninja games when we did our Ninja March Radness thing, about feeling like a badass. And as you progress through this game and you get some cooler weapons and you get some better upgrades, you feel like a badass. I'm watching your playthrough here where you're warping behind people and you're doing all this crazy fast movement shit. It's fun. Like after you get to that kind of level, then and you don't have to be ultimate level. You just get to that level of like, oh, if it unlocks a few things, it really opens up the game for you.
Well, the warping around thing is a very specific weapon that I guess is worth mentioning. It's the Alucard sword.
Right.
Oh, is that the a la carte store that does that?
Yes.
Oh, okay, yeah,
And
that would make sense.
you can't unlock it until your second time, I think, in Dracula's castle as your end game boss.
Gotcha. I thought it was the phase shift because there's a phase shift attack that you get a little bit earlier on, and you can go there. I love the food as Castlevania food. You could change it. You can change it to like whatever DLC you're running it on and stuff. I thought that was really neat too. And of course, the music is just killer. The music's really, really good.
Yeah. So I want to touch back on what you mentioned about the cells and unlocking of items, and that was probably why I fell off it in the beginning as well. Is that the lead up time to kind of get into the game deep to get that hook, the hooks get into you. You really need to unlock a few weapons and shields and items, and it does feel a little bit slow once you get into the game and you kind of you can easily progress through several different stages of the game. You get those cells. There's even things added to the game that increase the number of cells that drop for a brief period. And once you get a few rounds of those, it kind of snowballs. But the first 20 runs, it may feel like, can be a bit slow, and that's probably maybe not so great. But once you get into it, it's really fun, and you feel like a badass right from the get-go. The first thing I love about this game, I'm gonna ask you guys in this game, how often you open doors? What's your door opening count? For me, it's 0 because I bust every fucking door I come across, full speed, no slowing down. It's amazing.
There's an achievement. Yeah, there's an achievement for not breaking a single door. I've gotten it.
Really?
But I got it by accident in the first level. Yeah,
it's so boring though.
I don't know if it's
boring.
in all levels or if it's just in that first stage.
Yeah, I don't know where you.
I got it from the first stage. Somehow I managed to get through the entire floor without breaking a single door. I opened the doors that there were.
But the breaking,
and then all of a sudden,
the door stuns the creatures behind it, and it's a super useful tool. Yeah. I mean, I get it. So you're taking a little bit. You're adding challenge to it by not utilizing that ability if you have to. But there is it's funny you should say that there is actually an achievement you can get for not breaking any of the doors.
I've been watching there's a streamer named Drex.
Which is difficult.
Yeah, I've been watching a streamer named Drex play this last couple of days, and he had mentioned that there's actually a challenge room. There's challenge rooms in this game, and one of the challenge rooms actually fails if you bust a door. So you have to make sure you deliberately not do it by accident, which is very tricky. When you get in the habit of you're just going, like it feels like this is a game that is fun to, we're not speedrunners, but you feel like one, and you're encouraged in some ways to go fast. And part of that is busting down doors, right?
Yep.
The funny thing about that challenge room is I don't think it tells you not to break any doors. It's just a challenge room with a bunch of doors. And so I saw all these doors. I was like, maybe I shouldn't break these.
and to the speed run point, when you get to the end, like there's that middle section between each stage that you go through where you can level up your stuff. If you do it in a certain amount of time, it unlocks a door for you that you can get more cells and a random weapon or a random shield or a random talisman or something.
Yeah.
So it does, like you said, but there's also a door for, now this took me a bit to get, because if you look at the bottom, or you look at the bottom right-hand screen, you've got the
kill count down there.
Yeah. You got the kill. That's the kill count. So I would get pissed every time. It's like, listen, I killed that many enemies. I know I did. No, it's consecutive kills without getting hit.
Without getting hit.
Didn't know that. So there's like I've done it once or twice where I've gotten like 60 of them and moved on. But of course, my time suffers because I'm being more cautious. So you get, if you're good, which you can get better with practice, you could get both doors to unlock and get some really good goodies out of there. But if you're like me, you pick one or the other. You either smash doors and take damage and get the hell out of there, or you meticulously take out everything you can without taking hits.
Yeah.
But I like that it gives those people an option to be like, if you want to burn through this, you get a reward. If you want to kill everything, you can also get a reward. Or you could just, do your best and get through it.
The first couple times through a biome, it pays to explore everywhere. There are secret areas of all the biomes. And with the DLC, you mentioned buying all the DLC, which is great because each DLC adds a couple biomes. So like for a game that is only basically 3 stages, but each of those stages picks from a pool of levels, and there's quite a bit of variety, and a lot of those have their own secrets and stuff to find. So I like that. I love how it's like, if you want to do a fast and speed run, there you go. Or you want to take your time and explore and be cautious, you can do that too. It's a fun mix, and it adds to replayability of this game that you have different ways to play for sure.
Yeah, I think even in this run, I found a secret I hadn't found before.
Right. Yeah. And like in true Metroidvania style, there's also unlockable items that help you progress later on. Like the first one you get is the ability to grow vines in certain spots. So you can climb up vines. There's like a wall jump or climb ability you get later on. And as you find those, it also opens up other areas of the biomes that you wouldn't have been able to get to. So it's kind of a neat does that as well.
Yeah, there's a ground smash, and there's symbols that are like very well and cleverly hidden. Yeah, the runes that you have to like keep an eye out for while you're running around. Some of them are more obvious than others, but there are some areas where I've run past it hundreds of times and didn't realize there was a ground smash rune underneath it that takes you to a whole nother level of the biome. I have a lot of accessibility turned on here because I suck at this game. So I have like the full map turned on, restart level after death. I mean, there are so many accessible things in this game that make it for someone who like me who gets frustrated pretty easily by dying over and over and over again, except I love Elden Ring. I don't understand that. But you can start the level over again and keep trying at it. And I think I got stuck on that tower level for probably about an hour before I gave up and started over from the beginning. Or Dracula, the first couple of times I fought Dracula, I was like, Jesus, man, this guy's pissing me off. So it gives you the ability to learn the level and keep playing at it. But it's your build too. Your build really dictates how well you're going to do. Because I've gone to death, I've fought death in the DLC, and I've kicked his ass. I've just obliterated him with the right weapons and the right build. But then I've gone back there where I've been like, this build's pretty cool, and just gotten annihilated and I can't get past it. So I'm sure there's ways around it by learning whatever strategy you need to learn. But your build plays a huge role in a lot of your progression throughout this game that at least that I've found. I don't know if you guys feel the same way.
Yeah, to a degree. It kind of depends on, various the way you play and all that too. Cuz I just kind of face tank death.
Yep.
Yeah, he wasn't too bad for
honestly. Any of the tier 1 bosses, I guess round A bosses, I was referring to them earlier, I just kind of face tank them. The B round bosses, I probably am a little more deliberate about what I do, but for the most part, they're still usually not that hard unless my gear drops have just been garbage that run. It's the final bosses are the ones who usually are tricky for me. The Hand of the King, super easy. The Queen is a huge pain in the ass, which is funny because she was the first one my brother beat. And he was like, "Oh yeah, she was a cakewalk." And I was like, "How? She killed me like 7 times before I finally beat her. I had more trouble with her than I had with Dracula."
But you know what it is though, is like you get the weapon combinations that feed off each other. Like you get the ones that do extra damage if the enemy's burning. Then you get an item that makes enemies catch on fire or, cause flame on
or
stomp.
spills oil on the ground or whatever.
Yeah. So when you get those combos together, it really adds up, especially later on. And there's some weapons that are just flat out amazing. One of the cameo items was from Deathline Miami or something, I think it was called. The baseball bat.
Hotline Miami.
Hotline Miami. That baseball bat is sick. Like it's fast. There's a lot of damage.
I like the baseball bat, and I like the sound it makes too.
Yeah, and the damage pops up.
Let me share something with you guys.
Yeah,
I'm gonna make something fun for you. So I don't know if you guys have ventured into the custom mode.
A little bit.
Custom mode makes the game even more accessible, but there are a few things that if you turn them on, you won't be able to unlock stem cells from your runs. One of those things is you have to have at least 20 equipment items. You can choose your equipment pool. You just have to have at least 20 items in the equipment pool to be able to unlock stem cells and get achievements and whatnot. So I did that with a bonk run, as it's called, with the baseball bat. There's a cleaver you can get that's a throwing item that stuns enemies.
I love the cleaver. That item.
So you huck the cleaver at him, run up to him, bonk, bonk, bonk. Yeah. And if you have the right passive ability chosen, you will replenish all your ammunition every time you kill something. So you just huck a knife, bonk them to death. You've got your knives
back. Knife back. Yeah. Yep. Yep. I think I did that run.
And there are even bosses that are susceptible to this. It's great. So you end up making it to where every time you get crits, you're reducing cooldowns on your skills. So you're throwing skills out left and right, stunning the crap out of things, bonking them to death. It's hilarious and super fun. There are certain areas that make it trickier, but for the most part, it makes the game super easy and kind of ridiculous.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome. There's a bunch of items that are hilarious. There's panchakus, so frying pan nunchucks, a big old giant bone. Yeah. I saw someone playing, and there was a huge double-bladed sword, which was freaking amazing. It was awesome. There's just, especially with the DLC, there is such a variety of items. And you had mentioned the nail from Hollow Knight, and much like Hollow Knight, it gives you a downward attack where you crit. So, I mean, it takes some getting used to in this game with controls of downward attacking. But it's totally worth learning because it's amazing when you have it.
I used that on Dracula. I think the first time I beat him, I was just bouncing on his head.
Yeah, you can, and it allows you to swing up too. So you can attack things overhead without having to jump. You can just attack it from the top.
Yeah. And it's one of the few weapons that lets you attack while running.
Mm-hmm. Oh, does it? Okay, interesting. Mm-hmm. Well, I got to ask you guys about shields. So I've been told that shields are kind of the OP way of playing this game. I could never get the parrying down. Do you guys use shields in your runs?
No.
You've seen me use shields a ton if you've been watching this video at all.
You've been running Alucard's shield.
Yeah, well, there's an item. If you see, I actually have the starter shield in my backpack there, right? Because I just keep that. So there's an idea I developed, and I'm sure lots of people have figured it out. But I figured this out on my own, where if you keep that starter shield, the one that you go grab out of the brick, but in the corner.
Yeah.
When you get to the end of the first stage, you can upgrade it for free. It doesn't cost anything to upgrade or reforge.
Oh. Interesting.
So I upgrade it to S. I upgrade it to S tier, and then I reforge it until any attack after a parry is 300% damage. And I either make it cause a bleed, a burn, or a poison, or a freeze as the other thing it does. So every time I parry, I'm doing more than that. And I just keep that in my backpack. So when I dodge, I parry. Every time. That's always the ability I take.
That's crazy. That's the kind of theory crafting you do with the builds that makes the game really open up. And it's something when you're first playing, you don't think about it. But once that clicks, the game completely changes.
Yeah. So I started developing strategies for these things, and I've kind of found my favorite weapon build. So I've stopped unlocking a lot of weapons for a while. I still find the blueprints or whatever, and I just have a ton stockpiled that I haven't unlocked because I've been going for, higher tier drops and outfits, because the outfits are fun. I actually have it set up on my custom mode where every time I die, just automatically in a new outfit.
That's
because it's just fun now. Like I have so many, I see a huge variety of them.
I was going to play Vampire Survivors after this episode, but it sounds like I'm going to be playing some Dead Cells when we're done here. Huh?
We should talk a bit about the Castlevania DLC a bit more, because that one of the things that opens up adds a bunch of outfits, a bunch of new items. I got to call out, you meet Maria pretty early on in the DLC, and you unlock Maria's fucking cat.
Maria's who's one cat, of the dude. Her cat
it's hilarious.
So
it does so much damage. It does
and it's so overpowered.
Yeah.
Look, I've got the cat right there.
Yeah.
Yep. I love Maria's cat. That was one of my favorite new additions to the game that I picked up. I was like, you get her cat? No shit.
Yeah.
And then it runs with you, or it could jump on your back and use it as a different attack.
Yeah.
Like while you're running through the area. It's a cool
it's great. And then it also
the only thing I don't like about the cat is it'll break doors on its own.
Yeah.
Oh, will it? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that's okay. The other item that's hilarious to me is the Bible, which in Castlevania, in Vampire Survivors, it orbits you and stuff. But in this, it's a big ass book, and you slam it in the face of the enemy, and you combo it. It does really good damage. It just it's funny as hell.
And if you do manage to hit with that second or third hit combo, you get a Bible flying around you.
Yep.
Oh, do you? Okay.
Yeah.
It's pretty funny. But yeah, there's definitely humor with this.
They keep a lot of the lore and a lot of the original stuff in it once you like show it off or whatever. I like the holy water too. I like the cross. I like all
cross
of
is good.
The additional stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now I have a question for you guys. Before we dig further, do you guys have a color stat you tend to go for? You know, red is brutality, green is survival, and purple is tactics. Do you guys have a preference?
I'm all brutality. I'm all kinds of brutality. I shouldn't be, but I'm brutality. But I try and extend it because you get too much of one thing, your HP percentage doesn't go up as high. So if you spread it around,
No, it does. Yes, and
not
no.
as much.
No, not as much.
No, it's well, yeah. You want to really focus on one stat. And then anytime you get one of the other scrolls that doesn't give you that stat, just take the one that gives you the more hit points.
You're right. Okay.
Yeah, that's what
the way to do it.
Yeah.
But I almost never go for tactics, and in my custom build, I've limited it to where basically everything that drops, I'm either going to end up going a brutality build or a survival build.
Yeah, I'm the same. The traps, which come with the tactics, the purple abilities, I almost never like using them. They just don't work well for me. The grenades and the blade spinny thing and all that. They just don't work for me. Survival is mostly the range weapons and Maria's cat. So I like those quite a bit. But I'm like with Chard, brutality, usually what I go with. But if I want to try a bow build, then I'll go tactic or survival. But mostly brutality. I do like the abilities that are split between colors, because when they're split between colors, it kind of, the more you take of one color, it kind of expands. So you're not totally penalized for not taking that.
You can get colorless stuff too that
Yes.
allows for a little bit more variety as well. Yeah. I always try to see where Wolf is all about his shields and the OP shield run. I like having a ranged weapon on me because sometimes I don't want to get close. But I bet if I got better with shields, then it wouldn't freaking matter. But
if you get the armadillo pack, so I'm guessing you don't have the armadillo pack. You're gonna want to get the armadillo pack. That's the thing. I think I got it before I got the first stem. I don't remember where it dropped, but it was somewhere my brother almost never goes, so that's why he hadn't seen it yet either. But the armadillo pack makes it so every time you dodge, you also parry with the shield. That's
a game changer. Yeah.
Yes. So that's why I do that with that basic shield and just make it like really overpowered for what it is. And that's like, no matter what, I've got a decent shield as soon as I beat the first area.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, like I dodge all the time, but the parrying was never something I could do. I gotta look for that pack then.
Sorry, vampire survivors. I'm gonna be busy with Dead Cells tonight.
Wild.
So yeah, it's like you see every time I dodge, that little arc shows up in front of me. So I'm parrying at the same time I dodge. And it's super handy. It combines both life-saving mechanics into one button push. So,
right.
Easy mode, that's what that is.
That's easy mode, yeah.
So you're going to want to do that, and then with that, like whatever you have in your main hands, just use. You're free to not have to have a shield on you at all times in one of those hands. It's great.
Right. I just need to be better about the parrying part.
Going back to the Castlevania DLC specifically, then it adds 2 zones or 3 zones.
2 technically.
Okay.
Well, that depends on how deep you want to get.
So we got before you get into that, because you're going to say, okay, so the one zone, and I made this mistake, and maybe other people listening to this are having the same problem. The one zone, if you visit it early, because you can visit right off the opening thing, you can't visit it later on to get the true end boss, right?
Correct. So you're kind of expected your first time through to go through the castle outskirts and then find your way into Dracula's castle. And then as you're, once you beat that and you're headed up to see actually Dracula, the game is like, you fucked up. You're going to see death instead.
Yeah.
So you get pulled down to the necropolis. You got to fight death. So that's 3 areas if you want to be technical. 2 levels really, and then the boss region, a boss area, right? So the boss area, but you'll find out after you do that the first time. You get to talk to Alucard, and as long as you read what he says, you'll kind of learn that you need to go after the clock tower, which is around B area. And if you go after the clock tower, because there's a clock tower at Castlevania, it has some sort of effect on how things work. And now death can't pull you down to the necropolis. You can actually get into Dracula's castle and go see Dracula.
Right. And it fits because clock tower is a trope in Castlevania games, right? There's always a clock tower in the Castlevania games. Yeah.
Right.
And you can the outfits that you can unlock from Castlevania, there's just so many of them. You can, like, you see me running around in Death's outfit. Like, this is his second or third one because it's red instead of the purple. But you can unlock Alucard's outfit. You can unlock Simon, Trevor, Maria, Hector. Do you guys even know who Hector is?
Who's Hector?
I know him from the anime. He's the guy that does the reanimation, right?
Yeah, he's the one from
the Forge
Curse of the Moon.
GBAs. Yeah. He's from the Game Boy
not
version.
GBA, PS2.
Was it PS2?
Yeah.
I thought it was Curse of the Moon was there?
Curse of Darkness. Curse of Darkness, sorry.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's the main character from Curse of Darkness. You get multiple outfits of some of these characters. What's interesting is that when you play as Dracula or Death or Maria or Simon, Trevor, any of these, you actually get the head. So they have a face. Like,
yeah.
They look human instead of having this disembodied thing, like, with just the flaming head or whatever it happens to be, the smoke or whatever. It's kind of cool. And neat little tidbit, depending on the character you show up to visit Dracula with, he has different things to say.
Oh, does he? That's pretty cool.
Uh-huh. And they're often very entertaining, so it's worth visiting him with multiple different character outfits.
Yeah, but they do the whole trope. They do the whole what is a man? A miserable pile of secrets, and he throws the fucking wine
he does that for one of them.
First get there, he does the first time I saw him is he did that whole trope.
Yeah, if you're not wearing a Castlevania related outfit, that's what he does. And I'll give you the least spoilery one because it's just funny and nothing else really. If you show up in his outfit, he's like, "You fucking imposter! Just because you're wearing what I'm wearing doesn't mean you get my powers."
That's pretty good.
So it's stuff like that. It's very tongue-in-cheek humor with that, and it still feels like a good, proper Castlevania experience, right?
Absolutely.
Now,
absolutely, the enemies in there are perfect for the game. There's so much cool callback to that game where you're like, that's really neat. I'm really glad that
one of the lore rooms is a save shape thing from Symphony of the Night.
Yeah,
that's hilarious to me.
The octagon or whatever.
If you have the accessibility option where you respawn turned on, you respawn at that room if you've found it in a run, which I think is a hilarious small little thing that just.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's hilarious.
I didn't know that because I don't take that skill.
I had it on for a little bit to try it out.
There's the dancing ghosts too. There's an area in the castle where you can see the dancing ghosts, like they're just spinning around, and you just sit there and watch them. I don't know if there's anything beyond just sitting and watching them do their thing.
I think it actually here it is. Oh no, that's the bleeding. The bleeding mask.
You get the bleeding eye,
stone mask.
Yep.
But I think the one where you watch them dance, it often gives you some sort of buff.
Oh, does it? Okay.
Because I've gotten like double cell drops after that and stuff like that before.
Gotcha.
Yeah, you can also find Legion in one of the rooms.
Mm-hmm.
The boss made of a ton of bodies.
Okay, interesting.
And it'll usually drop food that is tainted.
I love that.
I don't think I've seen Legion yet. I read about it, but I hadn't seen it yet.
And if you chose it as your final area instead of your round A area, you'll find Richter in that gold area that just ran by on the screen back there. It's a doorway that leads to where he's locked up.
Yep.
And the second time you go there, you get an extra little area where you get to play as Richter.
Oh, that's cool.
And
I haven't gone there a second time.
There's stuff to unlock in Richter mode, so check it out.
Are the moves different, or is it just your same weapons you already had when you're playing as Richter?
You play as Richter, like it
interesting.
plays like Richter Castlevania.
Okay.
So your jumps mean it. You got the slow whip. You play as like it's you don't play you play it like a Castlevania, not like Dead Cells, and it really throws you off.
Yeah, I imagine because they
Awesome.
even though there's a lot of influence on Dead Cells from Castlevania, it does not necessarily play. The speed is totally different, right? There's
Right.
there's no
It's way
knockback
quicker.
like Castlevania likes to throw at you.
Way quicker.
Yeah, that's funny. Okay, yeah, this
So,
DLC
Shard, I don't
is
know
wild.
if you ever figured out those doors with the circles on them.
I
You
did.
did? Okay.
Yeah. I still I don't have my cells to do it with, but I know
Yeah.
somebody came and told me about it while we were playing it once. And I went, "Oh, I
Okay.
think it was Sarconius told me about it," because I was like, "What do these doors even do?" And of course, I'm like, "Somebody tell me what these freaking doors do, please. I want to know what these doors do." And they're like, "Jesus, all right. Spoiler, you have to do this to get it." Oh, okay.
It's not that big a
It's
spoiler, but it's
I think it's fine to
when you're
say. Yeah.
the game leaves a lot for you to wonder the first time you're playing. I'll give it that. By the way, I looked back through my Steam account. Turns out I've had this game since August 2017, and I had only played 4 hours before I started playing it again.
So that's
You
basically
noticed your
just after
time
early
kind
access
of
started
high.
in May. Yeah, a couple months after.
And my
Yeah,
favorite
it's
thing about the startup of this before we started the podcast was Jake goes, I thought I was the expert at this with my 9 hours of play. Now I've got you at 20 something hours and then Wolf at 120 something hours. Damn it.
I just I don't get it. Well, like Vampire Survivors, I'm telling you guys how fucking awesome Vampire Survivors is. And I'm thinking I play it for like a good 10 hours. Oh, I put so much in this game. And then you guys come along with like 60 hours. like, all right,
150 something achievements, no
Yeah.
big deal.
Yeah, I'm an expert. It's Elden Ring all over again with my 90 hours in Elden Ring, thinking I'm so special with 90 hours and Char's got 300 plus. It's like, oh, it's okay.
Hey,
That's
well,
okay. Yeah, all right.
I'm thorough. What can I say?
Yeah. But this Castlevania DLC
it.
though is something else. Like you can tell
It's
that
cool.
the company when they got this rights, they just loved it. They dumped not just one or two tracks, but like all the Castlevania tracks are in this game. But the two different music modes,
Yeah,
there's the 16-bit plus, music from Castlevania, but also the 8-bit stuff is there too. Like they this incorporated everything. It's just so great.
Yeah, so the way it works is, they've got the basic soundtrack for the game. And if you play through with the basic soundtrack, they've got their own versions of the Castlevania songs that they made for the game. And then if you play through with the 8-bit soundtrack, when you go to the Castlevania areas, you get NES tunes, or I think one of the tunes that they play in between stages they made from a Symphony of the Night tune to sound 8-bit.
Right.
And then if you play with just the Castlevania soundtrack, you get music from, Super Nintendo era, you got PlayStation era, you got PS2, I think Game Boy Advance, DS, like it pulls from
I think
everything.
Rondo of Blood sound is in there, or one of the tracks from there is in it as well. Like it's
Probably.
pretty. They pull pretty good across the various franchises or various games.
Yeah. And honestly, the Castlevania soundtrack, as good as the soundtrack is in general for Dead Cells, I am partial to playing with the Castlevania soundtrack.
Well,
I feel like it keeps the tone of the gameplay a little better than the slower, more ambient style of music that the game tends to have on its own.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Yeah, I agree.
It's cool, but it's never as cool as the original, right? I mean,
Yeah.
it's a cool little mix up, but I really as much as I appreciate that they did it, I'd still rather listen to the originals because they're timeless, they're classic, they're really solid.
Yeah.
So, but I like their spin. I like that they took the Dead Cells theme and then manipulated it with the basic music behind it, and I was like, yeah, I just sat there and listened to it when I first got in the first castle level. I was like, fuck yeah, this is solid.
Yeah. Yeah, I know most of the DLCs have been $5, I think, but this one is the first one that's $10. But if this is what they offer for $10, sign me up. Like, is there
It's
any
a
other
love letter? Like,
yeah,
it's
definitely totally a love letter. Is there any other franchises you would love to see them incorporate in the Dead Cells if they were given the chance?
Yes.
I've been kind of okay. You tell me what's yours.
This is gonna sound stupid because it doesn't really go along with it, but it does, but it doesn't.
Is it
but
Mega Man?
like a Metroid
Oh.
skin.
Yeah.
Oh, Metroid. Yeah. Well, I mean, Nintendo's been licensing stuff out a little. The only thing is, it would have to be limited to just the Switch, and I don't think Motion Twin would want to do that.
No, probably
Right.
not.
It's a damn shame that they couldn't get away with it, but it would be definitely kind of cool to get the Samus skins and
Yeah.
the Ridley skins and fight Crane and
Yeah.
all that stuff, and just like 1 or 2 levels of extra stuff. I don't know how you do it because I know a lot of this game is hack and slash. It does. I mean, you do get the laser gun. You get the laser gun and the laser sword
from Hyper Light
later,
Drifter. Yeah, you get a laser gun. There's a pistol.
Yeah.
They actually added like firearms to the game in one of the DLCs, and they're actually fun to play with.
Mhm.
There's one where you can
Yeah.
shoot, and when you run out of ammo, use the sword version of it, and you get ammo back. It's a really cool combo weapon.
Right.
So I could see it. That'd be fun to do.
So
Zelda could work too.
Zelda would be cool. That'd be an excellent one too.
Zelda 2 influence.
But
yeah.
Stepping away from Nintendo a little bit, part of me keeps thinking of Mega Man, which would work even less just because, it's all firearms, unless you think of like Zero and stuff like that. But honestly, like, I don't know, maybe like Strider, Ninja Gaiden.
Yes,
Strider.
Ninja Gaiden is where I was thinking.
Ninja Gaiden would be cool. Gaiden would be cool.
Capcom has some properties, because I think even Street Fighter could be incorporated into this somehow, or Mortal Kombat. If they got the licensing deal, they could incorporate a whole area based around.
Man, give me Darkstalkers
from Mortal Kombat.
Give me Darkstalkers. Let's fucking go.
Darkstalkers.
Darkstalkers
Yeah,
would be
the art
perfect.
style already
Yes.
fits.
Yeah,
that would be great. The trope's already there. You already got it.
Yeah.
And there's a fireball move in the game already.
There's
yeah.
I don't know if you can get away with it because you've already done the Castlevania stuff, so you already have a Dracula-esque. You already have Dracula in it, so I don't know if you can get away with some of that. But I mean, having the cat girl and Felicia, and then
Morgan.
Yeah.
Morgan. Having them just running around with skins would sell like hotcakes through this entire game. That.
Darkstalkers is another franchise where it's been dormant for too long. Like there's I think one or two of the characters was in the recent Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom game, I think. But I've been wanting Darkstalkers game proper for years now, and maybe with Street Fighter 6 doing well, we'll see. But yeah, that's another property that's been forgotten. So yeah, this is.
But forgotten. I found an arcade version on Steam that allows me to play like 3 of them in a bunch of different Capcom like lost fighting stick games, and they look like the original. That it's not like a PlayStation version or something. They look like the old arcade version, and it'd be nice to see somebody pick that up and put it in something like this, I think, and give a little homage to it. Would that be considered a hidden gem?
Darkstalkers? GP's rules probably. Street Fighter would be a hidden gem to GP. Nobody's heard that one.
Bro, the guy thinks Star Wars is a hidden gem. Let's be honest.
Darkstalkers has never gotten the love from Capcom as like a lot of their other IPs have, though. Like they usually get stuffed into other stuff.
Series.
Like the Darkstalkers, ever since Darkstalkers 2, I think they've really just kind of been stuffed into like Puzzle Fighter or Pocket Fighter or what's the other thing that Marvel Capcom, stuff like that, right? They don't really get their own games anymore.
And Marvel vs. Capcom, I think they're just repurposing sprites, so it's not nearly the same thing. Yeah, I'd love to see Darkstalkers again. So, all right, well, Dead Cells, fantastic, and it's only gotten better since release. I mean, it came out in 2017 early access, 2018 if you want to be technical with the full release. We're in 2023, and this game still slaps. It still holds up. When we're talking about like roguelikes as a genre, or even just Metroidvanias, this game is still incredibly impactful and relevant, and it's definitely a standard. Like I've been playing a few different indie games in the last few weeks, and I still feel myself coming back to this one. Like this one is so polished and feels so good. This is a game where, like you've said, Chart, it makes you feel like a badass. It's because the controls are so tight and so solid. Add in fantastic music, graphics are fun, the humor. And there's just so much replayability. Like I lost count of how many items are in this game. There's the whole package here, especially with the DLC, is amazing. It really is.
Yeah, I think the art deserves a little bit of conversation too, because
hell yeah,
it's all sprite artwork and it's
yes,
gorgeous. It's so smoothly animated, and like you even talk about how many outfits the main character has, right? and every single one of them is fully animated. That's a ton of work. And
Yes.
some of them are as simple as just a slight tweak and recolor, and some of them are like brand new, fresh styles of outfit, and they're all so well animated. It's great. Like it's just wild to me. And I mean, some of them are a little easier to animate than others, like the snowman, but
Still cool though.
Or
It's a Santa Claus outfit.
Santa's
That's very
cool.
rad.
I see what you did there.
Yeah. Oh, unintentional puns. That's what I get for being a dad. Yeah, it's pretty awesome. All right, guys.
No, just how clean everything looks in this game is it's very visually appealing. It's audibly, visually, and play style appealing. There's very little about Dead Cells that's not like Chef's Kiss throughout the entire thing. It is very challenging at first. Once you start to get the groove and you get the levels up and you start getting the cooler weapons and whatnot, then it really, really opens up for you, of course. So you just have to be patient. You can't be impatient when you start playing this game because it's going to be tough to start. But the more you grind and the more you play, the more you're rewarded, and the further you can get, and then you get all of Wolf's cool fucking costumes and cool Alucard related weapons and all of the stuff you can find throughout there. There's some cool whips and stuff out there that you can play with that are from other DLCs that are neat. There's a lot of really cool synergistic things that you can combine to make the game just rock.
And, there's whips in the game.
You just gotta find it.
I didn't get whips. Really?
Yeah.
Oh, shit.
So there's 2 whips that I've seen. One seems to be like it's from a different DLC or the main game. The other is from Castlevania. It's the Vampire Killer. And you actually get an achievement for killing Dracula with the Vampire Killer.
Of course you do. That would make sense.
Yeah.
All right.
I've only seen the one whip. I haven't seen the new one for Castlevania. I've seen it's like the electric looking whip. And when you whip the water, it gets the water in it, and it's
that
cool
one.
weapon.
That was pretty.
I forgot about that one.
Yeah, I forgot.
That's the only one that I've seen.
Okay, the other whip I was thinking of is the whip sword, which feels like it's inspired by Ivy from
Soul Calibur.
Soul Calibur.
Neat.
So you can switch between sword and whip with that weapon. So it eats both slots, and so the second slot is switch between them.
Huh, right. That's interesting. Okay.
Yep.
All right, guys. Well, Dead Cells. I don't think I need to tell anybody to go play Dead Cells, and many people have. But if anybody's like us who may have played it when it first came out and kind of haven't gone back to it, it is so worth going back to now, especially after this DLC. You guys have any last words you want to mention about Dead Cells?
No, I'm sorry that my computer went Dead Cells for a little bit, guys. My apologies. That's nothing more embarrassing than that. So my apologies.
All right.
Wolf? I would say don't be afraid to look up things you're missing. If you're curious about something, look it up because there's so much to be found in this game. Even when you find out where something is, it's still a challenge to get it a lot of times. Some cases, it's literally just a small percentage chance drop from a specific enemy that will only appear, and when it's a full moon, and it's not that specific, but you have to like have so many stem cells active to get that thing to drop, or do it as a round B instead of round A or whatever. Right. But yeah, it's there's a lot to find. Don't be afraid to look stuff up because even with looking stuff up, I still probably haven't found half the things in the game.
Yeah, I'm less worried about spoilers than Dead Cells. It's just still fun to play regardless. It just really is a great time. Okay. Before we go, we got one more thing. We have to do it. So I don't know if you guys are prepared for it or not, but it's Press B's Top 100. We each need to nominate a game. You guys got like 30 seconds to think of one. I'm going to cop out this week, and I'm going to pick an easy one. I'm going to pick Mario Brothers 3, Super Mario Brothers 3 on Nintendo Entertainment System. So while you guys are thinking about your pick, I'm going to talk about it. I love The Wizard. The Wizard is one of the best movies, I think, from the 80s.
Oh my gosh.
With Fred Savage. Come on, man. How can you not like The Wizard? Anyway, this movie sold me on Mario Brothers 3. I didn't know it existed until I saw this movie. And it was years after that I got a chance to buy Mario Brothers 3. The number of power-ups. I think this was on my top 5 games episode, actually. If it wasn't, it should be. I think this is better than Mario World, personally, although there's an argument for both. But the variety of power-ups, the Tanuki suit turns you into a freaking statue, the Raccoon Suit is like something that's iconic even to this day. The various Koopa Kids, just the various worlds. Like this is the game that set the template for every Mario game going forward in terms of like the worlds and different themes. It's so good. I love Mario Bros. 3, and it's a game that I play even today. And I could play the original NES version. I could play the updated Super Mario All-Stars version. Both are fantastic. So for me, Super Mario Bros. 3 has to be nominated for the top 100 list of Press B. How about you guys?
Can I go next, Will? Can I
Are
go
you ready?
next?
Okay, if you're ready,
Yeah.
go ahead.
I might cop out a little bit and use some of our current episode to. This should count. If it doesn't, tell me if it doesn't. But I want to go Symphony of the Night. To be honest with you,
Yeah, that came
adding
out in the 90s, right?
adding Alucard.
Yeah,
Yeah, it
95,
came
I believe.
it's there we go. Okay, perfect, beautiful. I'm thinking Symphony of the Night. Symphony of the Night is it's a different spin. It's an RPG version of the Castlevania game, and you played as a whole different character without a whip. You played with Alucard for the first time, and Alucard is an awesome character to play as. All the different spells and the magic, and him being able to turn into the bat, and it's the Metroidvanian. It really kind of got things going with it, where you can go and find all the different things to progress throughout the game. I love Symphony of the Night. I think it's a spectacular. It's probably my favorite Castlevania out of the entire series, and I like what it did to make it an action RPG instead of doing the same old, the rinse, wash, repeat of going and finding the third level whip, finding a secondary weapon and going through. You actually leveled everything up, and there were drops all over. You could find special drops to Wolf's Point, like he just said. You had to find a certain enemy at a certain time with a 1% chance when the moon is full. It had the upside down castle, which is a huge trope, and it brought so much to the Castlevania series for the
Yeah.
future. You know, everybody knows what is a man, nothing but a miserable pile of secrets. That just rings throughout the retro community, no matter where you go.
Yeah.
So, my opinion, is Symphony of the Night absolutely has to be in the top 100.
I got the Mister running
I,
behind me in the background, and when the PlayStation Core got added to the Mister, it was the first game I was playing. That was Symphony of the Night.
That
I
was the
love
first
Symphony of
game
the
I
Night. Yeah.
badged on RA too.
Yeah.
I want to bring two more points to what you're saying. One, before people jump down my throat correcting me, know that Sinistar already has. It came out in 97. Secondly, as far as the statement of, during a full moon, blah blah blah. My preferred version of this game is for the Sega Saturn, Nocturne in the Moonlight. It added a
Yep.
couple areas, but it also actually made use of the internal clock. So the
Yep.
things that would only work, between 6 p.m. and 6 a.m. would only work between 6 p.m. and 6 a.m. and vice versa, instead of
Right.
X amount of hours on the clock, right? It was kind of cool. A little frustrating when you're playing at like 5 o'clock and the hour rolls over and all of a sudden Alucard's much weaker. Like, crap, I
Right.
gotta change. But
But I mean, that's a cool feature.
it was a cool
Yes, it's
feature.
neat.
A lot, right? So.
Yeah.
So my game, interestingly enough, by coincidence, another Konami game, even though they don't make a whole lot of those anymore.
Yeah.
Suikoden, the first one.
Okay.
Now,
So
I know there's a
good.
lot of love for Suikoden 2, but my issue with that one versus the first one is just the amount of translation errors. It did, like, gameplay wise, sure, but it had so much translation issue that it shouldn't have had that the first one didn't. So I got to go with the first one. It really set the tone for a whole franchise of games that there were 6 of them, I believe.
Is it that big?
Maybe 7.
What?
Yeah, so, yeah, I think there's 6 of them. So there's Suikoden 1
Wow.
through 5.
Yep.
1 and 2 were on PlayStation 1.
Yeah, I knew of those. 1 and
3
2.
and 4, I think 3 and 4 were on PS2. Maybe just 3 was on PS2 because I think some of them were on
Wow.
PS3. And then there was also Suikoden Tactics on the DS, I believe. Yeah, Chard's
not
favorite
sure.
form of RPG.
Oh, I love those TRPGs. Hidden gems, they are.
Hidden gems, they are.
And,
Yeah.
But it was like, it was not like a lot of people think of it as, this was the game you played if you could not wait for a really good RPG at the end of summer for Final Fantasy VII, right? Because Suikoden and Wild Arms were out at the beginning of the summer. They were there to play. So shit, yeah, I played them. But Suikoden hit in so many good ways. The sprite art was amazing. The story was really strong, and it told a story about a character who, he struggles with his allegiance to his dad versus his wanting to do what's right. And while the main character never says a damn thing, his close friends around him who know his father sort of tell this story for you. But then you also you experience loss in that game. I fucking cried at this game at age 15. Like
I didn't know the story was that good. I've heard of this game. I've never played it. I always wanted to, though. But,
oh man, I've heard nothing but good things about this game. Nobody has said you shouldn't play this. I doing my RPG runs and stuff. People are always like, "When are you going to play Suikoden?" It's one of T-Girl's favorite RPG, if not game. She talks about it incessantly. So it's on the list to go through. It definitely needs to be played.
I've played through this game 3 full times. The last 2 times I played it, we're both trying to do a certain task that I will not spoil here because I know you guys haven't played it. If you know the task, you know the task. If you don't, it's because you haven't played the game, and that's fine. But both times I fucked up doing that task like minutes before you're supposed to do something right. I accidentally saved at the wrong time and screwed myself over, didn't make a second save file, and completely hosed hours and hours and hours of effort. And twice I did that.
Do you see
if you're familiar with what I'm talking about, you know how much that hurts.
Do you see a place where this and Wild Arms would be in our top 100 list, do you think?
Wild Arms 1 has not aged well.
Okay.
There are other entries in the Wild Arms franchise that I like a lot more. I might actually submit one. I have to go back and give it a little playthrough to see if I still feel that way about it. But I might submit a Wild Arms in the future.
Okay. I know I think an episode I'd love to do in the future at some point is the generations of RPGs battle, like the 8-bit RPGs on NES versus 16-bit on SNES probably, and then versus PlayStation. Like SNES and PlayStation especially had their own suite of RPGs that would be fun, I think, to pit against each other. So maybe for next year's March Radness or something. So.
It's going to be tough going up against Legend of Dragoon. I mean, that game is spectacular, which spoiler might
wish I could have played it. The copy I bought had no disc 1, and I lost the receipt between the register and my car.
Wow.
That's
wow.
That's so Fate's mad. Fuck you. All right, guys.
It's a great game.
A hidden gem. Probably because I didn't even hear that before until you mentioned it. So that's a real hidden gem. Take
really?
GP.
Oh my god. Everybody
knows Legend of Dragoon. Everybody knows Legend of Dragoon.
Yeah,
Never
Legend of Dragoon's a classic.
Is that the game
where the hidden gem like Final Fantasy Tactics is a hidden gem?
No. Is it the one where there's like big army battles
Maybe
against each other?
Night too.
Is it like the one with big armies fighting each other? No. Legend of Dragoon. I have to look this up. I've not heard of this game.
You're thinking of Dragon
Never
Force.
Heard Legend of Dragoon?
Yeah.
It was supposed to be the Final Fantasy killer on PS1. Obviously, it wasn't, but it tried to be. It's a great series. It's a great, well, not series. It's one game. It's a great game. It's a phenomenal RPG. Really well.
Yeah, it's when you look at it, it looks like it belongs alongside Final Fantasy.
Sinistar knows Legend of Dragoon.
Yeah, Sinistar in chat saying he knows of Legend of Dragoon. He didn't have a console.
God, we're in trouble Sunday.
All right, well, maybe I should play it.
If you didn't know Legend of Legaia or something, call that a hidden gem. I get it, but not.
That's fair.
Legend Dragoon. I've never heard of it. Okay. All right, guys, this has been great. Wolf, anything you want to shout out or plug?
No. I keep saying I'll do a thing. Eventually, I'll do a thing. Once I've done a thing, I'll let you guys know.
Okay, Jared, how about you?
You guys know what I'm doing, but Jake, announce what we're doing.
Right. So if you guys are watching us live here on YouTube on Fridays at 8:30, 5:30 Pacific, Chard and I this Sunday in a couple days over on twitch.tv/Smite, SMIGHT. Smite's been a streamer on Twitch for quite a long time. He does a weekly game show on Twitch called Arcade Pit. If you have not seen Arcade Pit, you stop right now. Stop this episode. It's okay. I won't hold it against you. And go watch Arcade Pit. It's 2 teams of 2 go against each other in retro challenges live on his channel. There's trivia, music trivia, drawing contests, and it's all video game retro related. It's a blast to play on. I've been out once before, did horribly. That's why I'm bringing my ringer. I'm bringing in Chart, who's going to beat all the game challenges for us, and I'll somehow do the drawing in my stick fingers. But yeah, we're gonna be on an arcade pit on Sunday.
Too is you, man. if anybody's getting played, it's you.
Char's gonna make me play Donkey Kong Country, and I'm gonna be really bitter about it on the stream. But anyway, I'll make sure I link us on our Twitter and Discord. But yeah, I'm done. But definitely check us out on Arcade Pit. I figure it'd be a fun time. So and it's free promo, right? So. And then for myself, I have videos. Oh, I'm still working through Battletoads. I can do the first 3 stages of Battletoads. The first 3, hitless. Arctic Caverns, fuck every ice level ever.
12,
quoting Sinistar.
I think there's 12 levels in there, but yeah, you're doing great.
Well, I'm 3 levels in. It's good. I'm still working on it.
Wait till you get to Inferno, buddy.
God, I know. Well, Inferno is as far as I made it when I first played the game, so I know I can eventually get there. But right now, the Arctic Caverns is kicking my ass,
buddy.
Yeah,
wait to Klinger Winger, buddy.
Klinger Winger is where I'm really worried. But anyway, I'm still working through Battletoads, so I will finish it sometime this year.
There's no shame in pause buffering through Klinger Winger. I'd like to point that out.
No, you know what? I should mention I actually had started Final Fantasy 3 for this NES, and then after I had recorded for about an hour, I went and played back, and I realized there was no game sound. So I have to start over.
Oh no!
That's why I haven't done a thing yet.
I kind of wish Doom didn't have game sound. So,
well, that's the thing. So if we do a quick Sisyphean check, I'm 3 levels into my game. Chard, you're giving up on Doom. Sounds like, right?
Getting there. I'm getting there. It's only April. I still got
8
months left.
7.5.
And then Sinistar's still playing through Chrono Trigger. He's stuck at one part, but hopefully he finishes it. I hope he finishes it. And then GP has not started his penultimate run. We'll see when he starts that. And then Wolf
He's
is
a busy man. He'll get to it.
Yeah. And you're doing Final Fantasy 6. I hope you finish Final Fantasy 6. That game is fantastic.
I think I will.
Yeah. All right, guys.
Sisyphean check.
Sisyphean check. Well, it's good to do once in a while. We haven't done it in a while. We were so busy with March Madness or Radness. I screwed it up even after 5 episodes.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Don't get us sued.
That's true. Don't sue us, NCAA. All right, guys. We are Press B to Cancel. Please check us out on YouTube or on your favorite podcast platform, from iTunes to Amazon Music to Google. Anybody want to throw us out? Any final parting words before I hit the stop recording?
Yeah, I can throw something in there from Dead Cells that if you haven't seen it, you're gonna love when you do.
Go for it.
You are an incorrigible ass.